All right, let's jump right into this. Welcome to another explainer, and today we are breaking down one of the most utterly spectacular edge-of-your-seat finishes in modern motorsport history. We're heading over to the Lusail International Circuit for the 2025 Qatar Grand Prix, specifically looking at the Moto3 class. Now, if you follow motorcycle racing, you already know Moto3 is famous for its chaotic, high-speed pack racing. But this specific race, it elevated that chaos to an entirely new level. 0.009 seconds. To put that into perspective for a second, a human blink takes about a third of a second. This margin of victory is practically microscopic. It is the literal definition of a photo finish. You really have to ask yourself, how do 20-plus laps of intense, physically grueling racing culminate in a gap that ridiculously small? Well, let's unpack exactly how we got there. Section 1. Qualifying results. To really understand the pressure cooker of Sunday's race, we have to look at the sheer pace at the front during qualifying. Japanese rider Ryusei Yamanaka, riding that MT Helmet's MSI KTM, absolutely hooked up a flawless lap to secure his maiden pole position. He dropped a blistering 2 minutes and 2.638 seconds. But look right below him on the timing sheet. Aussie Joel Kelso was just 0.041 seconds behind. And rounding out the front row was championship leader Jose Antonio Rueda. So right out of the gate, the stage was set for an incredibly tight showdown. Section 2. Race starts. The lights go out and Yamanaka perfectly converts that maiden pole into a brilliant launch, grabbing the whole shot into turn 1. Now, if you're familiar with Moto3, you know exactly what happens next. The signature freight train forms immediately. You see, because these bikes don't have massive, overpowering horsepower, aerodynamics and slipstreaming literally dictate everything. So this massive pack of riders forms right behind Yamanaka, jostling for position, drafting just inches from each other's rear wheels at over 140 miles per hour. It's wild to watch. Section 3. Mid-race drama. Okay, so the crucial point here is just how quickly that leading group started to fracture. Right off the bat on lap 1, Adrian Fernandez and Alvaro Carpe get hit with long lap penalties, dropping them way down the order. Then, by lap 10, Dennis Foggia crashes and, unfortunately, he tags David Munoz on the way down, taking Foggia completely out of the race. A few laps later, David Almanza slides out. Suddenly, this massive freight train shrinks to a lead group of just 4 riders, and then, just before the final lap, absolute disaster strikes. Championship leader Jose Antonio Rueda, sitting right there in the thick of the fight for the win, suddenly sits up. Mechanical failure. His race is instantly over. The heartbreak was just devastating, but it completely shifted the dynamic, leaving just 4 riders fighting for 3 spots on the podium. Section 4. The final lap. So, heading into the final sector, the tension is just off the charts. Taio Furusato on the Honda Team Asia machine decides it's time to make his move. At turn 14, he aggressively dives right up the inside to take the lead. And his strategy here is crystal clear. He wants to dictate the pace and stubbornly protect that inside line all the way through the final corner. He essentially parks it on the apex, making his Honda as wide as physically possible, to force everyone else to take the longer, slower way around. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the strategic depth of Moto3. As they exit turn 16, they face this grueling 400-meter drag race to the finish line. It's a total chess match. Furusato is relying on a long gear strategy. By sacrificing just a tiny bit of acceleration out of the corner, he's banking on having a higher top speed at the end of the straight to hold everyone off. But tucked right behind him is Angel Piqueras on the KTM. Piqueras gets a slightly better drive out of the corner and uses that massive aerodynamic slipstream, the toe, generated by Furusato's bike slicing through the air in front of him. And this is where the physics just take over. That slipstream literally sucks Piqueras forward. In the absolute final millisecond, Piqueras pulls his KTM out from behind Furusato's Honda, and they cross the line totally side by side. The timing screens flash. Piqueras takes it by exactly 0.009 seconds. Piqueras denies Furusato his maiden win in a photo finish that is so close you practically need a microscope to see it. Just incredible racing. Section 5. Final race results. So Angel Piqueras takes the 25 points, but look at second and third right there. Taio Furusato and Ryusei Yamanaka, a spectacular double Japanese podium. Yamanaka followed up that maiden pole by fending off Joel Kelso to grab third. And you want to know the truly mind-bending stat here? The top 3 riders, Piqueras, Furusato, and Yamanaka, were separated by a grand total of just 0.042 seconds. Basically nothing. Joel Kelso had to settle for a very close 4th, and Riccardo Rossi rounded out the top 5. Section 6. Championship Standings. As you could imagine, the implications for the championship were massive. Because Rueda suffered that devastating mechanical failure on the penultimate lap, he scored a big fat 0. Meanwhile, Piqueras scooped up the maximum 25 points for the win. This completely flipped the standings upside down. Piqueras vaulted straight into the championship lead with 67 points, leaving Rueda trailing by a razor-thin 1-point margin at 66 points. Kelso sat back in third with 41 points. But what you should really take away from all this is how a single fleeting moment can completely define a season. While Rueda was absolutely heartbroken in Qatar, losing the lead because of a broken bike through no fault of his own, this exact moment became his catalyst. Rather than folding under the pressure, Rueda got mad. He went on an absolute tear, winning at Jerez, Le Mans, and Silverstone. He channeled that 1-point deficit into a totally dominant run, eventually securing the 2025 Moto3 World Championship title later in the year in Indonesia. It's just a fascinating narrative arc, isn't it? A race decided by 0.009 seconds. A championship lead decided by a single point. It really leaves you wondering. In a sport decided by millimeters, milliseconds, and the smallest mechanical tolerances, what tiny, seemingly insignificant detail is going to completely alter the outcome of the very next Grand Prix? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer of the Qatar Moto3 race, and hey, keep your eyes on those timing screens.